Cool. Hopefully we are sounded live here on the Facebook side, so I'll just kind of keep going with that in the meantime. So I think that, oh, there we go. We got some sound coming in. All right. I guess now I have to mute ourselves. Because live at COVID-19 streaming has technical difficulties, so bearing with us, I appreciate you guys. Anyway, I want to talk about wholesaling and owner financing because a lot of people get into wholesaling for not bad reasoning, right? I've got nothing wrong with wholesaling, and I want to be super duper clear on that I think a lot of times people, especially just knowing that I'm big into owner financing, kind of get into this situation where they're almost embarrassed to tell me that they want to be a wholesaler or that they want to wholesale something because they're like, I know I should be buying this and taking it down. That's cool. I think wholesaling is an excellent option that you should be employing, and we are. We wholesale options or wholesale deals all the time right now. But what I want to make sure that everybody understands at the end of the series is that, look, honestly, a lot of the reasons why you got into wholesaling are the same reasons why you can get into subject to and actual true investments with portfolioing of properties and all that jazz, everything that builds true wealth, if you have that on your team. Now, to take that even a step further is, I'm a huge believer in, hey, you should really know the ins and outs of each strategy that you're dealing with as you have time to it, right? There's nothing more important than going out and taking action. Do not, get so wrapped up in learning that you don't actually talk to sellers and get them, get in front of people who can say yes to a contract. There is nothing more important than that, right? As soon as you can, be talking to sellers. But as you start to understand these things, you're going to be able to start using strategies that worked really well on one side to make you even more money on the other side, right? And that'll be something that we're going to talk about as far as what are some wholesaling strategies that you may currently be employing that you might not have realized could have also been used in owner financing, could have also been used for subject to acquisitions. And over here on this side, you're actually building a true portfolio. You're building true wealth, true long-term passive income that can help you get where you want to go. And so that's kind of what the series is going to be. And at the end of this series, like we are referring to or starting to try to do more often, we will do a deal analysis where I'll show you how I was able to use a wholesaling strategy inside of a deal that was an owner financed deal. And it ended up helping me pocket almost 50 grand. It was like 48,000 and some change up front, along with, I think it's like a $300-ish cash flow and a little bit of equity in the deal, treating it exactly like I would as a wholesaler does. So if you are out there and you have wholesale deals, tune your ears into this next few weeks because this is going to be a great way for you to apply what you've done over there into actually building portfolio wealth. So Daniel, if I could pass back over to you real quick and just tell me kind of your perspective of these two strategies and what it is about one or the other that you think people should be paying most attention to. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually bring up a graphic that we created for you to maybe help illustrate for everybody. Here's some things that are great about one strategy and the other, and here's where they kind of intermingle together. But before that, Daniel, what are some highlighting points that you love about wholesaling? What are some highlighting points that you love about subject to?
There are massive benefits to both strategies, and I have my pros and cons personally for both. But on my side, wholesaling is an absolute savior, and I use that word in a lot of ways because if you have limited to no capital, but you have the wherewithal to go out there and put in the time and the commitment necessary to get the knowledge that you need, wholesaling can take you from somebody that's never made $20,000 a year to making $20,000 in a couple of weeks. I mean, wholesaling has that kind of power, and that is an amazing power. But with wholesaling, I agree with Grant wholeheartedly. Wholesaling is not real estate investing. It's not investing at all. Wholesaling is flipping paper, and you never really retain any tangible asset. You get an asset, which is your contract, and then you sell the contract, and you never retain anything long term. One of the beauties I find of subject to is that it has a very similar scenario, as in it can be done with limited to no capital, but with the benefit of subject to, you do the deal once and you get paid every month for a very long time. I mean, you're not guaranteed, the next 90 years of payments, but you have the potential of making the next 30 years of payments. And subject to, while, when I first got started, I could not understand why somebody would go through all that work to make $200 a month, $300 a month. It's like, I'd rather just wholesale and make 15 grand on a deal. Well, whenever you do 10 subject to deals, and now all of a sudden every single month your rent's getting paid, your electric's getting paid, your gas is getting paid, and that doesn't matter if you get out of bed or not. You could sleep in and say, you know what, I don't want to go through the grind of getting another wholesale contract this month. Subject to keeps you fed no matter what, and I love that about subject to. It's a great passive opportunity for cash flow, and when I say passive, I consider it to be the most passive opportunity there is, because rental investing is by no means a passive investment. So I love subject to, Grant, and I appreciate you for teaching everybody out here a little bit about it. What were some of the things you had on your graph?
Well, so as I go into this, I really want to hear your guys' opinions on this, right? So we've already got a bunch of people watching, and I want you to put in here, if you have gotten into wholesaling, what is it about wholesaling that was attractive to you, right? Or similarly, if you've got into owner financing, what is it that was attractive about owner financing to you and how it fit into your strategy? I want to see that. I want to hear how you guys are thinking about things, because that will help us to tune this better to you. But let's look at this graphic right here. Nope. Yep, that's the one. Let's look at some wholesaling versus sub-twos. And by the way, this is a downloadable document. We have the link. It's a little bit.ly link that is in the description of the video. Ika, if you could go ahead and drop that link in as comments on these lives, that will also be helpful. But if you're watching this not live, just go to the description, and we do have a freebie download there for you to click the button and get this document for yourself. So we're going to talk about these things. But let's talk about wholesaling versus sub-two. So what are some wholesaling pros, right? Well, one large pro is the low capital requirement. You don't have to have the money to take down properties when you're getting into wholesaling. And it's low risk. If you do it right, you're in option contracts, right? Like Daniel said, you're flipping paper, right? You get a contract signed. It's got an option period on it, which a lot of people actually getting into the business are confused with, well, what is an option contract? An option contract is not like its own thing that is solely an option contract. Daniel, can you explain to us what we mean? Because I get this question a lot. When we say option contract, what does that mean?
So it's quite simply a purchase contract where you are agreeing as the buyer to purchase the property from the seller. And the reason they're calling it an option contract is because that contract to purchase the real estate has an option to leave the contract for whatever reason on the buyer's side. The buyer will have a option clause in it that says, for X amount of time, I reserve the full right to exit this contract with no penalties. Therefore, it would be called an option contract. So most of the times when you hear somebody refer to that, it's just a purchase agreement with the option to exit the contract.
That's all it is. You're going to see it. You'll hear it referred to as an inspection period or option period or anything like that. So I get that question a lot from people getting into the business. So I just want to clarify that. When you get a purchase agreement done, you as the buyer have the option of whether or not you're going to buy this property for X amount of days, and that's a portion of your contract. But the seller is obligated to sell. That's the beauty of the option contract. When you are in an option period, the seller is obligated to sell. You are not obligated to buy, which is what lowers your risk so significantly in wholesaling and allows you to do deals like option-only deals, where you can tell your person, look, I don't know exactly for sure positively that I'm going to be able to get this done, but I think that I can. So let's go under contract. I've got however many days to look at this deal, and I'm just going to let you know right now, if I can't find somebody to buy this from me, I'm not going to be able to buy it from you, but I'm your best bet, right? Sometimes you'll run into situations like that. So that's what I'm saying, like, it's low risk. You never take title to a wholesaling deal. You're just in the middle to get that assignment created. And if you determine that you can't make money on that deal, then you just don't do the deal. That's a huge piece of the wholesaling puzzle, is that with option-only contracts, you just don't do the deal if it's not going to make you money. Now, the today money aspect is huge of this. That next bullet point here, the wholesale deals, I'll zoom in a little bit bigger so we can get you some more text on the screen. The wholesale deals are going to give you today money with potentially very large sums of cash. This is what Daniel was referring to earlier, right? Like, you have the ability right now. You don't have to have any money in your pocket, anything like that. With the low barrier of entry that there is to wholesaling, not only is it really simple, but it's also got 1 trillion people telling you how to do it online. You got a low barrier entry. You can just go out there and you can turn $15,000, $20,000 on a wholesale fee. That is a huge, huge deal. Something that really makes this worth doing, and it's a fast payday. very commonly in the wholesaling world, you're getting these deals done within 1, maybe 2 weeks. So from the time you're talking to your seller to the time you're getting a deposit put into your bank, you might be 2 or 3 weeks out from that. So it's a fast payday. But what about the wholesaling? Oops, this was supposed to say wholesaling cons. We have a little typo in that. But what about the wholesaling cons? Well, today money, right? It's a pro and it's a con. It's a pro because, hey, you've got some today money and you can get some potentially large sums of cash with it. But it's a con because the day after you close a wholesale deal, you're unemployed and you have to do it all over again, right? That today money is all you get. So while it's a positive, it's also a negative. Daniel hit the nail on the head. He hasn't even seen this sheet that we made, but wholesaling is not investing. If you want to be an investor, well, be an investor. If you want to be a wholesaler, that's cool. A wholesaler is a very high paid job. You are not an investor. Okay. The other con to this is that large discounts are required to buy the deal. If you're going to be doing wholesaling, you've got to get that purchase price down enough to where there's room between what that seller's willing to agree to and what some other investor buyer is willing to agree to with cash so that you can actually make that money in the middle. And then the last con that I threw up here would be that there's a lot of competition in the wholesaling world. For the same reason that you're going to have a low barrier of entry because there's so much knowledge over there is going to be the same reason why you've got high competition. There's a low barrier of entry. There is everyone and their dog who decides I'm going to go be a real estate investor, seemingly goes out, does some Google searches, lands on the beauty that is wholesaling, and sort of sits there. Daniel, would you agree with kind of my assessment of these pros and cons and anything else that I might have said there that might have triggered a thought on this topic?
I most certainly do, man. I mean, I love wholesaling, and I personally have probably came across as being a detractor from wholesaling, and that's strictly because I hear so many people talk about it and so many people push it as the holy grail of real estate, and I think that's because it's so easy and it's flashy. It's easy to get people excited about it, but at the end of the day, wholesaling is not retirement. It's not generational wealth. It's not passing on and creating a net worth. I mean, wholesaling does not create net worth, and I really think that so many people get caught up on wholesaling that they miss out on the things that truly do create long-term generational wealth. And I think that's what we're all in this for. We want to change the trajectory of not only our lives, but the lives of our children and the futures of them. And for people to stay steady on wholesaling so long, I think they're doing themselves a disservice. Quit calling yourself a wholesaler. Become a real estate investor. Own some assets. Own some paper. Own some sticks and bricks. And if you're not doing that, I really think that you should open your ears up and open your mind up to the thought process that, you know what, there's things out there besides wholesaling.
Yeah, man, I freaking love that. I hope that inspires a lot of people here. Because something he said, I think, is a really good point. I want you to also comment in these comments here because I want everybody to see that this is. I bet I can answer the number one. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write down a word, okay, and I bet you that I will hit the key focus of 90% of the people who answer this question. So I'm going to ask the question, why did you get into real estate? Okay. That's the question I want you to answer is why did you get into real estate? Okay. So go ahead and comment that. Tell me why you got in because this is very important. So while you're doing that, I'm going to kind of keep going with a couple of these things here because I want to see this. I like that Santiago Luna said, I like wholesaling because it allows me to cherry pick deals. I think that is a phenomenal way to look at wholesaling. And actually wholesaling, that's how it started. It was a bunch of people who wanted to be landlords or flippers or whatever it was. And when we got into a position or they got into a position where, hey, all my crews are busy or all my capital's out, but I'm still getting leads, let's negotiate it down and maybe sell it to another one of my investor friends. And then somebody's like, wait a minute, we can like systemize this and actually make some money on it. And here's what happens, right? Is that everybody comes into real estate. I say everybody. Okay, so here we've got a couple of questions so far. We're on a delay here, so I won't have time to have everybody's, but we got a couple of answers. Financial freedom, freedom of schedule. That's another big, great answer on there. You know, we've got a lot of, yep, here's another one. So legacy, that's a good one. But what I will show you is that 99% of the people who answer this question, this is the word that they are going to use. Freedom, right? Freedom from the corporate politics of my desk and freedom to spend more time doing what makes me happy. Remember, I wrote this word down before anybody had a chance to answer, okay? Now, here's the pros and cons of that word. A, it's a little bit of a cop-out, IMO. Freedom means a lot of stuff, and I really like Jennifer Ryan put in, freedom from the corporate politics of my desk job, freedom to spend more time on what makes me happy, right? Freedom of schedule. Having a definition of what freedom means is going to be the most important part of that. But here's the irony, is I wrote that down because I guarantee everyone who says something along the lines of what or why they get into it, 99% of the time it's going to have to do with freedom. And it's a little bit like the story of the Odyssey. Daniel, you know the story of the Odyssey, Odysseus or whatever, back in the Greek Odyssey?
Somewhat, I remember reading it. I think it was the Book of Iliad or something like that. Whenever I was in English, whenever I was actually awake, I didn't sleep through the class.
I was about to say, I'm surprised you're quoting school, man. That must have been on the day you showed up.
I don't think I got kicked out that day.
So what happens is everyone who Google searches, I want to be in real estate, they're like, I want to be in real estate because the freedom behind it. And we're getting some feedback that we're getting issues with things cutting in and out. I've actually got my stream running here and it's not cutting in and out. But Daniel, I don't know if there's a technical thing on the streaming side over there that might be able to.
I've been investigating that. I'm not seeing anything on my side.
Yeah, mine is streaming fine, and we're not in the same building at all. So I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, so the story of Odyssey, guy gets on the ship. He wants to sail someplace. And he knows that when he goes that way, there are these sirens. You've ever heard of a siren, right? And they hear that, and everyone that's going this way. So here's what happens. Everybody says, I want to be a real estate investor because I want freedom. So they get their ship together and they get their crew on there and they get it all polished up and they set sail for Freedom Island. And while they're sailing for Freedom Island, they hear this song over here that says, but you can make $15,000 and it'll come pretty quickly and it's not that hard. And they're like, ah! And they end up on Have a Job Island. And they stay there because wholesaling has this allure of large paydays, lots of money. You've got all the info marketer gurus out there flashing their watches or Lambos or whatever it is and saying they got there through wholesaling. And then what you do is you end up owning a job and you're unemployed the day after every closing. Okay. So I love Santiago's view of this. Santiago is one of our JV partners. We've done a bunch of deals together at this point in time. I think he sent us 20 or something deals through our JV portal. And I love that he's saying, look, wholesaling, I get to pick the deals I want and wholesale the ones that I don't. That's how I think you should look at it. I also think you should look at it as, look, my minimum expenses are $10, $15, whatever $1,000 a month. So I'm going to wholesale until I hit $10,000 or $15,000 because I got to pay the groceries or pay for groceries. And then I'm going to switch and I'm going to start doing some stuff that actually makes me an investor. So that's where we start talking about sub 2. And what I wanted to show you guys is like, literally, I was doing my taxes a while ago and I brought this up a lot. So if you've seen me, this was a couple months ago. But this is the check that I had when I quit my job. This is the check that I got, right? So I don't know if any kind of these things matter or not number-wise, but like, look at that. This was it. And I guess you can't really tell because my focus is out, but it's a $4,000 check, $4,154.57. This is what I quit my job on, okay? When I decided to go into real estate, that was the money that I had to make it. I think that that's a lot of people's story. I'm going to get into real estate, I'm going to make it, and I don't have money. Therefore, how do I buy houses if I don't have money? Oh, check it out. Wholesaling lets me buy houses if I don't have money. Oh, wow, I can make a lot of money on this. Man, think about the freedom I'll have if I have all this money. Job Island, 16-hour days, hard work, reality of owning a business, and now you own a job. And you never got that cash flow. If you'll notice on how we graphicked this out, there's a reason that I have the same font color on these items. Because why do you get into wholesaling? Well, because I don't have a lot of capital. That's number one. Well, it's low risk if done right. Well, I can, if I don't do the deal, it's an option only contract, and I get some cash in the bank, some today money. Okay. Well, let's look at subject to. What are some pros of the subject to side of things? Well, it's a low capital requirement. You pretty commonly don't have to come out of pocket with any money. I say this without hyperbole. This is the real deal. My actual story here is that my first probably 60 houses that I bought cost me $0 out of my back pocket, literally. That is not hyperbole, okay? Because I structured things creatively. Okay, so the same reason you might get into wholesaling, low capital requirements, is a big reason why you might be able to get into sub two, low capital requirements. Well, what about low risk? Again, it's low risk if done right. If you're doing things the way that I trained to do them and the way that they should be done, you're buying everything through your LLC. You're making sure that you're working with somebody, especially on those first ones, that kind of knows what they're doing so you can get it done through. And I say it's low risk because the risk that you have in an owner finance deal with sub two is more of, crap, I froze. Am I still on with you guys?
You're froze on the screen.
Wait, that's awesome. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about this. I'll restart while you can put your input on this side of things. I don't know why.
I'll go ahead and take care of that real quick. So Grant's audio is coming through just fine, but his video froze up. So give him a second to refresh his Zoom feed.
I'm going to restart my machine, but talk about the wholesaling pros and cons that I brought up, and then I'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go for that. So one of the things that impressed me tremendously about Grant, I've known Grant since I think about 2014, maybe 2015, is how he was able to structure so many subject to deals, and he was literally putting no money in his own back pocket. So not no money in his own back pocket, but he was using none of his own capital to do it. So that's one of the appealing pieces of wholesaling, is that you can do wholesaling with limited to no capital. And I was watching Grant, I think the first year I met him, he closed 80-ish deals that year, all subject to. And with 80-ish deals coming through his portfolio that year alone on a subject to deal, I mean, that's 80 deals done with no money out of his own back pocket. And let's say the average cash flow of each one of those deals was $200 a month. Now let's run some simple math on that. And I want to show the power of subject to whenever we discuss it like this. If we look at 80 deals in 1 year with an average of $200 a month in cash flow, that is 2,000 times 8. Now what is that? $16,000 a month in passive income that he's created from a note portfolio. Who in here feels like they could retire off of $16,000 a month in income? I mean, most people, I believe, watching these channels, we've got you live on multiple different channels. We got close to 100 people watching right now. All of that taken into consideration, who in here could truly retire off of $16,000 a month in passive income? Grant was able to pull that down in close to a year. I believe inside of a couple of years, he knocked down close to 300 subject to transactions. And if you look at 300 subject to transactions and you take into consideration the average of $200 a month in, that's close to $30,000 or right at $30,000. My math is not the greatest. I never made it really past 6th grade. All that taken into consideration, you're doing pretty good. And I mean, whenever we look at that, if you give up and you commit a solid 2, 3, 4, 5 years to something like this, you stand a very solid chance of actually retiring. Now, Grant did that with a small team. Like, he had 2 business partners, so there was 3 of them to split that up with, but that's still a really nice, healthy payday. So for everyone out there, don't discredit the power of subject to investing. Don't discredit the ability to go out there and get these deals done, even if you have limited capital. I think the biggest thing that you need to be safe and secure in these types of deals is a strong education, some things like that Grant also provides. But subject to is solid, and if you already understand wholesaling, marrying subject to it is absolutely amazing. So Grant, I'll give you a recap on what I just said, but I kind of broke down like the year I met you, you did like 80-ish deals. And with 80-ish deals in your pipeline, if I'm looking at an average of $200 a month in cash flow, in 1 year, you added close to $16,000 in passive recurring income to your portfolio, and that's some serious retirement money. And I did disclose you did have two business partners, but even that taken into consideration, that's a massive year, and you did close to 300 of them in the first 3 or 4 years I met you, so that's pretty badass.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? And that's why I really want to get this thought through, and thank you for covering for me for a minute, but that's where I really want to get this train of thought through to everybody, is that there's probably a lot of you who are watching right now who have said to yourself, well, this is going to be a stepping stone for me. I'm going to be a wholesaler because I can't do quote unquote real investing right now. So I'm going to go wholesale for a little bit so that I can get my cash up, so that I can get some experience, so that I can, whatever that answer might be. And what I wanted to point out to you guys is like, look, why is it that you decided you were going to do wholesaling right there? Well, was it for one of these many reasons that I put here? Low capital, low risk, option only, today money. Well, guess what? Those are also pros that Sub2 offers for you. When I got into the industry, I did not wholesale a single deal until in the mid 30s. I think my 35th-ish deal that I did, I wholesaled because it was in an area of town that I was not going to, that historically I did not have great luck with owner financing. And I turned a 20-something-ish $1,000 wholesale fee on it, and it was great, right? But I want you to understand that you're not stuck to wholesale if you don't have experience, if you don't have money, if you don't have whatever. Those same reasons that people are attracted to wholesale are the reasons that make Sub2 and owner financing so powerful. And like Daniel mentioned there, man, 1 year of work can mean $15,000, $16,000 a month for 20, 25, 30 years. So let's just do, with that being said, let's do like a quick little comparison of get your mouth watering a little bit. If you're going to do 80 deals, let's say, and a lot of people, by the way, that's the thing, is everybody's like, well, I'm going to have to do 50 or 60 deals a year. Dude, you might have to do 50 or 60 deals total to meet the retirement goals that you want to meet. Because most of the time when I ask somebody, hey, what do you want to retire with? They're like $10,000. I want $10,000 a month passive, and I'd like that to happen in 10 years. Well, you know what that calculates out to? 50 or 60 deals total, not a year. So if you do like what most people think they have to do, which is 50 deals a year plus times whatever your average wholesale fee might be, okay, let's say $18,000, which is a pretty good average. That's $900,000. Okay, that's awesome. That is great today money. You basically made $1 million this year. But that's it. Now you're unemployed. You got to go back to work. What if you do 50 deals where each one of those deals, and my historic average is about $350 of cash flow? Well, now you're looking at $17,500 a month. And what if you make that $17,500 for 15 more years? That's $3.1 million. Well, guess what? So that's $3.1 million cash received. The other great thing about this is that my average on these deals, and we're talking about $100,000, $150,000 houses, is a $25,000 net worth addition, right? You're going to owe $75,000 to a bank, and you're going to borrower that owes you $100,000. Well, what's that times 50? $1.25 million. Okay. So now you've got a net worth of $1.2 million. You're making $17,000 a month, which we just calculated out to be something like $3-ish million. And if you net about $8,000 up front on these deals, which is a good target, you made $400,000 of today money, right? So in your first year of having 50 properties, you've got $400,000 in the bank, and you've got, what was it, $17,500 worth of cash flow a month times 12. Oh, there's 210. So what's that out of fee? 600 grand, 610. Well, what was it that we made by wholesaling those 50 deals? 900. So now in your first year, you've accepted $200,000 or $300,000 less than you could have in cash today, but you did the work once. And that work keeps working for you over and over and over again. And while you're asleep, it's working for you and depositing money into your bank account. And while you're on vacation, it's working for you and depositing money into your bank account. Which one is freedom? Right? Which one is freedom? The one where you have to make sure that you turn the other deals because 900 grand is only going to last you that 1 year. Maybe you're like, well, I'm going to live on 200 grand. Okay, that's cool. So now you've got 5 years of life off of that 1 year of work. And then, Lord, I hope that you know where the cycle is and everything at the end of that. Or you do that 1 year of work and you make $15,000, $17,000, $20,000 a month for 15, 20, 30 years, got a net worth. You see where I'm going with this, right? Like, I've been on vacation. I went to Japan for 2 months and got paid. I didn't show up to the office for 7 months because I felt like kind of taking some time off and got paid, right? That's the key. You can go to Japan for a time. You can not show up to the office. But the caveat is, and got paid. And that's where the subject to and the cash flow kind of stuff comes in. So if you're getting in for the similar reasons of low capital, low risk, option only contracts, today money, hey, guess what? Those are in sub 2 as well. So maybe you should pull away from what the rest of the crowd says needs to happen and look at what you know should happen. Because here's the thing that I run into with most people that we end up working with, especially on my higher end folks, like our creative executives and creative accelerator group. If you've never heard of it, this is called the Rogers Bell Curve. Okay. So with the Rogers Bell Curve, and this is just, I just yanked this off of the internet. I actually don't know why. I don't know the significance of all of these things, but this is the bell curve right here. Okay. Where it says early adopters, early majority, late majority, that kind of thing. The people that do best, in my opinion, especially when talking about doing creative financing, and the people that we end up working with most commonly as our quote unquote tribe, or the people that are attracted to this and really get the big time significant money opportunities here, are early adopters and innovators. Okay. We're at a stage right now where wholesaling is over here in the late majority. Everyone in their freaking, actually, I would argue probably in the laggards. It's probably more in the laggards. Everyone in their freaking dog knows about wholesaling and how that works. Okay. So since when does your cousin Jimmy, who has nothing to do with your industry, know the best way to make money in your industry, right? In my opinion, the way that I look at things, and I don't know, Daniel, if you would align with this or not, but I fall under this early adopter category for most things. When I notice that the whole world is looking at a certain thing a certain way, that tells me, if we are over here going from early majority to late majority, then there are people out there innovating who have come up with something more successful and more, able. And if I go find that and employ that as an early adopter, it will allow me to have a true profit opportunity because I'm there first. I understand how everything works before everybody else does. And I'm the one that gets to make the most money on it, because nobody else is really competing against me. Daniel, would you align as an early adopter? Where would you, I actually don't know where you would necessarily fall into this Rogers Bell Curve.
My opinion on that is a very good general statement.
Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. I can see you. I can hear you. Can you, I'm assuming you can hear me, but my opinion on the Rogers Bell Curve is that is a fairly good general statement, but I also believe that there is a caveat that could be introduced into that Rogers Bell Curve, and that is the introduction of a market cycle. I believe that all strategies, including wholesaling, like I do believe right now that wholesaling probably is onto the far right side of that bell curve. With that taken into consideration, though, a shift in the market really opens the opportunity back up again. So depending upon the market cycle, people will come and go. And as people come and go through market cycles, opportunities will come and go. So as this shows, I believe that wholesaling is to the far right side of that Rogers Bell Curve, while I consider subject to likely to be on the starting side of the left side of that bell curve. But with the caveat of a market cycle thrown in there, opportunities come and go, making that bell curve a little wider, a little deeper. People come and go, and I believe that a market cycle will flush a lot of people that weren't committed to this out, and it will open up new opportunities through a dip in the cycle that most people don't know how to work through. So if you don't know how to work a market cycle, go watch some of those videos. Very important to do. But yes, Grant, I do believe in general that Rogers Bell Curve is a very accurate depiction of how most industries progress. Yeah,
absolutely. So that's good. I'm glad that you agree on that side. So then let's start talking about, okay, so we've met the first four things that were so great about wholesaling. So what is it that separates the wholesaler right? The wholesale, like what's a con that wholesaling has that sub two doesn't? That's where we got into the potentially very large sums of cash, right? Your down payment is not typically like it's going to be very uncommon for you to be facing a $35,000 down payment, whereas with wholesaling, it's not out of the picture to grab $30, $40, $50,000. Now, most commonly it's going to be 10, 15, maybe 20, but it's not out of the picture and it's common enough. That low barrier of entry is another real big positive for the wholesaling because, as you'll see here in a second, the sub two con that we run into is the barrier of entry with knowledge. And then those fast paydays. You're not going to get the fast payday on sub two that you would with owner financing. However, what does owner financing have that separates it out with sub two from wholesaling? Well, yeah, okay, you still get today money. When you sell a house with sub two, like you acquire a house with sub two and you sell it with a wraparound mortgage, if you sell it with a wraparound mortgage, you're going to get a 10% down payment. And that typically means you're going to net $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 up front. And cash flow, right? Here's a separator. We've also got our tomorrow money. We've got cash flow and we've got equity. The other great thing about that equity, not just is it just, hey, now I'm actually worth something because I'm an investor, and I don't mean worth something like you're worth something as a human. I mean net worth wise, right? You've actually got a net worth. Wholesaling doesn't give you a net worth, but you've got a net worth, and that net worth, that equity in your notes becomes a nice little piggy bank, right? If you ever need some cash, if you do need today money, well, selling notes is something where you can turn that money in a couple of weeks, right? I've done that before. I just got through, I think a month or two ago, we sold 3 notes. We got like $115,000 off of it, right? So I gave up like $8 or so $100 a month because we wanted to invest in some stuff. And I got out like $100 and something thousand, 110, something like that, right? So that's a huge separator for what sub two does for you. Hey, remember the reason you got into to wholesaling in the first place is the reason that's good for sub two. And by the way, you get net worth. And by the way, you've got this piggy bank you can cash out. And by the way, you don't have to keep working every day and you're not actually unemployed after closing. This is with sub two and owner financing. I put passive in quotes because there's no such thing as passive. I'll just break that for you right now. There's no such thing as passive. There are only varying levels of passivity, but a subject to wrap is as passive as it's going to get. Okay. You actually have some income coming in where you don't have to manage stuff. The joke that I like to make is, if you have a mortgage on your house, when was the last time you called that mortgage company and told them that your toilet was leaking? Because never. They don't care. You make your payment on the first, and if you don't, you get foreclosed on. Again, this is a true investment and portfolio strategy. The barrier of entry that I put as a sub two con, because really I sat down and I tried to really think about sub two cons. I was like, I'm not trying to just make this work for my agenda. Like I really wanted to see what are the cons? The only thing I could think of was this barrier to entry. It's hard. There's a lot of crap you got to know. There's a lot of laws you might have to, or you might trip over. But that con in and of itself is actually kind of a pro, because if you are dedicated enough to yourself and your learning and your portfolio that you are willing to go out there and fix that barrier of entry, either through JV partnerships or getting a mentor or just doing some self-research online. I mean, Josh Dees is a great example. He went to the Propelio Academy, propelio.com/academy, signed up for that. It's free. It's an email. He had taken down like 5 or 6 deals in some of the most complicated owner finance ways that I know of, just purely by watching our sub 2 wrap program, our owner financing series that's on the Academy. That's free. We teach a lot of that stuff here. Now, he has since become a creative executive with us because he sees the value in kind of having those partnerships. But that's what I'm saying. It's like he just took the dedication and, hey, Propelio is offering me an academy that's pretty freaking sweet and has a ton of stuff in there. I'm going to go learn it. I'm going to go do it. And it keeps me in an area that other people aren't. So there is that barrier of entry, but you can use that to your advantage because it takes out the competition. You have very few people who can compete with you at the next bullet point, which is buying a house at full price. You've got to have these big discounts on a wholesale deal. But with sub 2, I've bought houses at 105% of their value and still turned 6-figure profits on it, which in turn is going to greatly affect your conversion rates. If you're just a wholesaler and you have to have deals at 30% off, 40% off, well, what about all those other people who would have loved to sell to you but you just couldn't come to a price with. Well, if that's the problem, we just couldn't agree on a price, that problem is fixed by seller financing and sub 2, because guess what? Now you can always give them their price, right? So you can buy it full price. And that means that each time you take down a deal, it's lowering your cost per closing. If you spent $1,000 on marketing and you got one wholesale deal on it, it cost you $1,000 per deal. Well, maybe you get one wholesalable deal and you get 2 deals that you could sub 2. So now you got 3 deals out of that same marketing campaign, which, by the way, is how it works. The same marketing you're sending right now has sub 2 owner finance leads in it. You don't have to ask, well, how do you find the sub 2 leads? You find them by marketing the same exact way you've been marketing. You just tune your ear to listen for the cues. And now you spent that same $1,000, but each deal only cost you $333. And then lastly, the easiness, easierness, easeability, easier JV opportunities. You don't have to know everything, and you will still know more than 95% of the wholesalers that are out there who were not smart enough to be watching a video like this in the middle of the week and figuring out, wait a minute, hold on, there's another way to, because now you can go to them and say, hey, what if you run into a deal where you can't come to a price with them? Well, I'm not, a pro at this. I haven't done a million of them, but I've been studying a lot on sub 2 and owner. How about you send me that lead and I'll close it for you, get you paid off of that, and we'll go from there. Well, it's a trash lead to them anyway. That's actually how I built my portfolio to begin with, because I'm not good at direct mail marketing. I'm not good at direct marketing. So what I did is I just started approaching all the wholesalers even before I had closed anything. Really, I'd done 3-ish deals. I was like, look, I'm not the end all be all, but I know what I'm doing and I've got connections with people who know what they're doing. So why don't you send me a lead? If you can't come to a price, we'll get it closed with owner financing, and we'll pay you out at closing, which means that you're paying for your marketing campaigns out of your trash can, and it's their trash can. Why do they care? So that's how I built my first probably 70 to 100 deals, right? Was like that. So it opens that up because other people are unwilling to go through that barrier of entry that we've just talked about. So again, the con being it is a large barrier of entry. You can trip over a bunch of stuff, but guess what? Propelio's provided you with a lot of information. CreativeCashflow.com provides you with a lot of information, right? We will help you get past that particular part. And then I put a little caveat down here. Due on sale clause is not listed because if you do these deals right, no personal liability should exist. Your worst case scenario is unlikely because due on sale being called is unlikely. And essentially boils down to it's going to be a headache, and worst case scenario, you're going to lose future income, right? It's not like it costs you money. It just prevents you from making more money in the future if you have that kind of situation arise. So how do you feel about that, Daniel? I want to hear y'all's input here as far as people who are watching, right? How many of you started getting into real estate because you wanted to be because you wanted freedom, and then you found that wholesaling was probably likely the area that was going to get that for you, and then you start realizing, like, wait a minute, hold on, this is actually really hard, and it's a job and that kind of stuff, right? Why? I want to see if you're like Ken here. Wait, so you can get money up front like wholesaling, but also get monthly cash flow? This is exactly what I've been looking for, in all caps and exclamations. Ken, you're the man. You're who I'm talking to, right? I'm talking to all of you out there who have decided you wanted to get into real estate and thought that your options were limited because of your knowledge or your experience or your money in pocket. And I'm here to tell you, as a guy who actually quit his job with $4,000, I cashed out my 401k to get this. So, after the taxes and everything, it was $4,000. I quit my job. That's what I had to invest with. And I was a millionaire in 5 years because I did not go down the wholesaler route. I used all of those same ideas to get into sub 2 and to start taking down actual portfolios, right? Like, this is the thing. And I want to be here as the guy who because here's the funny thing is you hear a lot of people about like, yeah, you can get into real estate with no money and blah, 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 and like no money and dibbity. And then like so commonly, especially when you're talking about something like this with owner financing, so commonly come to find out they had a really rich uncle that like funded their first however many deals, or they really they had this big like sum of cash that and a trust that they were able to spend. And they're like, yeah, you can totally do it. You can totally. But like nobody's ever actually met that guy who totally did it. It's just like, well, in theory, you can. Well, guess what? I'm the guy. I totally did it, right? I didn't have anybody in my family who had done real estate. I didn't get a single dollar from anybody in my family or friends network. I didn't borrow from my network until my 110th, 115th deal. It wasn't until I had done 100 deals that I was like, okay, now that I know what I'm going to do on this, now I will reach out to people who might be in my network and borrow, because I didn't want to borrow from somebody if I was not sure. So I am the guy who had $4,000 to go and became a millionaire in 5 years. This is real. This is not I'm sure in theory you can do it. And I want you to be empowered with that same knowledge. I want you to understand, hey, if you're sitting there and you want to build a portfolio in real estate and you really want to make something happen to where you can pass something on to your children and live in a nice house and have a nice car, you've got options. You just have to find them. You've got to be that early adopter, right? You've got to look on the Rogers bell curve and be an innovator or an early adopter so that you can find these things out that people might not be super willing to tell you because they kind of want it all to themselves. Whereas we here at Propelio and Creative Cash Flow hold much more of an attitude of, look, for us to say that we're competition is two fleas on the back of a St. Bernard arguing over whose dog it is. There's enough for everybody. So let us help you raise up to get where you told yourself you wanted to go. That's what we want to do for you. Daniel, what does all of this, how does this strike you? Okay, so like today, I know we've talked really more setting up the stage of, look at, these are surprisingly more similar than you may have thought. And in these next couple of weeks, we will tackle specific scenarios that you can use wholesaler strategies to build a portfolio. And then we'll do a great deal analysis at the end to pull that all out. But what sticks out to you here, Daniel, as we start to land the plane?
I want to start by saying I really like the new format of the Grant Teach Me Something show. I like how you're going to kind of open up the concept, which is what this show was for everybody that was like looking for the meat and potatoes. This is going to be like a 3, maybe 4-part series. I don't remember. But this is kind of the introduction to the concept. The next class is going to be, okay, here is the analysis. Here's how we do it. And then the third video is going to be, all right, here's a real life example, breaking it down. This is what it looks like applied. So I think this is a great teaching strategy. It's going to be broken down over 3 weeks, an hour on each one. I'm like, okay, here's the basics, here's the meat and potatoes, and then here it is applied. And I like that specific format. One of the things that you mentioned and you said is that, it took you 5 years to hit that mythical 7-figure mark. I have personally found that most people that commit wholeheartedly to real estate investing, take it as their full-time occupation, generally find that number from the people I've talked to in around 7 years. I fit into that same ballpark myself. So, I mean, real estate investing has historically done a great job of retiring people. So if you're out there watching right now and like you truly have the desire of changing the financial future of yourself and your family, real estate most certainly can do it. Please make no mistake. I would not be standing here on this little studio set had I not been in real estate. Had it not been for real estate, many of the opportunities that introduced themselves in my life would have never existed. Your biggest barrier to that actually happening, though, is learning a new language. Just like you've got to learn English, you've got to learn Spanish, you've got to learn French or Portuguese or whatever it is you choose to learn, real estate investing is a whole new language. And the better you get at understanding that language, the better vocabulary you command from within that industry, the better that timeline is going to look. Grant was able to do it in 5 years. Well, he entered in, like when you look at Rogers' bell curve, he entered in on the front side of that, and I still believe that we are very close to the front side of that. There's not a lot of subject to investors running around that are that educated and truly know how to pull these types of things down. So you are, by watching these types of shows, by following Grant, by going to creativecashflow.com, by consuming the information that you can get for free in the Propelio Academy, all of those things up your vocabulary in this industry and take you from maybe being on the right side of that bell curve to being on the left side of that bell curve. And then if you add into that equation the what do you call that, the knowledge of the real estate market cycles, you can eat at any point in time and you will become a flourishing real estate investor that has a longevity in this industry. And that's what you should really be seeking. So all of that taken into consideration, like We all have our own paths. We all have our own things, but subject to is a solid thing to have on your tool belt. I've personally used them in specific ways. It'll maybe a little different than the way Grant does, but I love subject to for their specific reasons. And there's by no means a world I could imagine that subject to doesn't create an asset for you in the side of your tool belt. So, Grant, I appreciate you for teaching all this. You got any final thoughts before we bounce out?
Yeah, not entirely different here, but I just wanted to thank everybody. I really appreciate the attitude of excitement and learning that everybody's having. I mean, I've got you know, a couple of people who are saying like this knowledge is unbelievable. It's, you know, Fidel is like it's just the fact I'm interested in learning. This is close to my second as I close my second deal today. Let's go, man! Like, round of applause to Fidel. Because getting those first few deals, oh wait, I can give an actual like, getting those first couple of deals under your belt is huge, man. So like, great job in doing that. That is a great time to be approaching something along this nature, right? Jennifer says she found us 3 months ago and that the information that she learned here has changed her entire perspective on real estate investing. And that's incredible. And I also like Robert saying, I'm ready for my freedom, right? Everybody says freedom. And then everybody hears this wholesaler siren song and gets pulled off. And I want you guys to understand, and just big shout out to Brady too. He's such a go-giver, man. And he says here, Mortgage Medic, you know, I got 3 contracts sub 2 with Grant's course, and it's never done a wholesale deal. Brady's such a cool guy about that, you know, about helping and getting things done. So yeah, it's the best thing in the world for me to see energy, to see excitement, to see people who've gotten into an industry to get something done and see the successes from that occurring. And I want this to be for you guys too. We are not, you know, this is not an industry, should not be an industry where people are holding back the ability for you to go get the freedom that you want. But just sadly, that's oftentimes how it is. And we want to change that. So again, if you are watching and you want that download that I was just showing, click on the little bit.ly link, the little short link thing. It's just a little click funnel site that'll shoot you through, and you'll be able to get the download. It'll start the download immediately for you so that you can have that for your own reference of kind of making notes and that kind of thing. And then again, if you like how I teach, check us out at creativecashflow.com, right? So go to creativecashflow.com/memberships. There's different levels, just kind of depending on how much personal interaction you want, how much hand-holding you need. You can get in for a weekly Q&A where I just answer everybody's questions starting at 7 p.m. on Central on Mondays. And we just kind of answer until people stop asking questions. And there's also a lot of online video content. And I do, you know, Robert asked about sub 2 contracts. Like, I spent a lot of time and a lot of money making sure that I could get some white labeled, downloadable, solid sub 2 contracts available for you guys. So there's a sub 2 addendum for any of the members there. When you sign up, you can go to downloads and download the addendum to go along with your purchase contract. So that's awesome. And then it goes all the way up to like where Josh Dees is, right? With the creative executives who I mentioned earlier, which is a full-blown mastermind. And we just have some real high quality folks in that group. So if you do want full-blown, you know, hand holding and having us help you through the process, we would love to do that with you as well. And don't forget to check out Propelio. If you want to be a real estate investor, I don't care which strategy you want to get into. You're going to have to know how much houses are worth. You're going to need to have a good presence that's not my real estate investor email at yahoo.com. You're going to need to be able to have some leads to market to. You're going to need to be able to know that you can skip trace those guys, that you can keep track of everything that you need in a CRM, that you can drive for dollars and build those lists. Like, Propelio is doing such a good job of making sure to be a complete solution for what you need. I mean, I literally canceled probably $400 worth of monthly subscription-based services. And I get all of that out of Propelio, plus comping with real MLS comps, which basically nobody else can really offer on that side of things. It's just a no-brainer. It just makes total sense. So check out Propelio.com if you're not already a member. Sign up. It's a free trial. You can get in there, see how things are going. I think, you know, can't they even download some leads and stuff during that trial, or is that something you got to be a member for at that point, Daniel?
No, you can still download your leads during the trial. With Propelio, one of the unique value propositions that we have is that you can download up to 5,000 property detail leads per day. That's unheard of in the industry. Most software services cap you at 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 per month. And 20,000 per month is a very big number, whereas Propelio gives you 5,000 a day, which adds up to a total of 150,000 per month. So one of the great things is that you can go in there and try out Propelio with absolutely no credit card required. You can just join with an email and see how the system works. Now, we did have some people taking a slight advantage of that, and they were just creating account after account after account. So we did limit the amount of downloads you could do during your trial. So you're now limited to 2,000 leads during a trial. So it's still a very healthy trial. You just can't go in there and get 75,000 leads on a trial. You're only limited to 2,000 on a trial. But once you upgrade and go to the full plan, that is 5,000 per day. So thank you for pointing that out, Grant.
Yeah, so I mean, even with 2,000, that's more. I mean, that's just an incredible amount, and it sucks that people took advantage of the system. But don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Go out there, sign up. It is a great tool. We use it in our operation too, and on top of everything else, if you're not necessarily in the position to be signing up for something, but you got deals that you want to get closed, don't forget I'll also JV with you, right? You can go to creativecashflow.com/JV with me. Much like Santiago Luna, we were talking about him earlier. Like the deal that we did the deal analysis on a couple of weeks ago, that was one of his deals, right? So we want to make sure that nothing is in the way of you getting to your end goal of freedom, especially if that barrier of entry is knowledge and ability, right? If you've got leads and you're working hard to get that, let's get them taken down so you can start that money flowing into your bank account. So guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing this as well. We had a couple of people share this. I think this will be really good information for a lot of folks. So like Eveline, Sophie, and Corey Thompson, Jean Francois, like, thank you guys for sharing it. If you have gotten something out of this, please share it. Please hit the like button. Please go to the subscribe and put the little bell so you know when we're coming up, because we want you to get where you want to go. And we have seen why people in your situation don't get there. So that's what we're trying to do here, is help you overcome those obstacles that people don't even realize they're obstacles until they get pointed out, and may not even realize the other options that they have until they get pointed out. So if you enjoyed this, please like it, subscribe, share it, drop comments, all that kind of stuff. Let us know, because that stuff fires us up and gets us going. So thank you so much for being here. I'll say my goodbye now. I'll hand it over to Daniel so that he can land us out, and then we'll see you guys next week as we go into some of the specific strategies that wholesalers use, which can also be used specifically with owner financing to get you into a true investor seat.
Well, much love, everyone. I think Grant did a great job of closing out this show. If you enjoyed what you saw today, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button. We had a bunch of y'all engaging over there on YouTube, a bunch of people over there on Facebook. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to the channels that you're on. If you are on Facebook and you want to be guaranteed to get notifications when Grant goes live, he goes live every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. But if you want that notification on your phone, jump over there on YouTube, find YouTube's Propelio page, just search Propelio YouTube, subscribe over there. Definitely a great way of knowing when Grant's going live. For everybody out there watching, don't forget to share, comment those algorithms. We really appreciate it. That's one of the main reasons why we're out here doing this. No hiding that. We are trying to build an audience. So if you want to help us build that audience, you want to share some of the love. We hear people all the time saying, hey Daniel, hey Grant, like how do we pay you back, man? You've given us so much, you spend so much of your time, so much of your knowledge, and you're so free with it. What can we do to help you? Help us out with these algorithms. Go out there, comment on them. Like we've got the Facebook group. I don't know if I've got a glitch going on over there or something, but I saw no comments at all come through that group, and we had close to 30 people watching the whole time. So that really doesn't add up. But if you're over there in the Facebook group, drop some comments. It helps us out with the algorithms. Hit those share buttons, like, and do all of those fun little things that we've talked about. But at the end of the day, if you truly enjoyed what you got here today, remember this is a 3-part series. Set your calendar for next week, Wednesday, 11 a.m. And we're going to get into the numbers of this. Like, okay, so we've talked about the theory behind it. Now let's talk about the application of it. And we're going to round out the series with a third one, which is going to be a case study showing you exactly what it looks like in application. So go out there, check those things out, enjoy what you do, share the knowledge, share it with your friends, let everybody know that Propelio's out there and Grant's out there and that we're out there doing these great things for everybody. So much love, much appreciated, and y'all have a wonderful day, guys.
See y'all later.